Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Jacob. I'm a hard-working man. I believe in earning my way, taking responsibility, and standing by the people I love. But if there's one thing life has taught me, it's this: loving the wrong people will destroy you. And I learned that lesson the hard way. And this is how it all fell apart. When I met Diana, she was a widow with 2 little kids. Benjamin was 4, full of energy, running around with his toy cars, always asking questions. Elle was just a baby, barely able to walk, clinging to her mother wherever she went. Their father, a military officer, had died in action. He was a hero, but heroes don't come back home. That left Diana alone, struggling to raise 2 kids while trying to keep her life together. She was exhausted, and I saw it. I saw a woman who had been through hell, trying to do everything on her own. So I stepped in. Not because I had to, not because anyone asked me to, but because I wanted to. I wanted to give these kids a stable home, to be the father they lost, to make sure they never felt like they were missing something. And for years, that's exactly what I did. I worked long hours, but I never let my job take me away from my family. I made sure Benjamin and Elle had everything they needed: good schools, new clothes, a roof over their heads, and food on the table every night. But I didn't just provide for them financially. I was there. Every school event, I was in the front row, clapping the loudest. Every birthday, there was a cake, presents, and laughter. Every vacation, I made sure they had memories that would last a lifetime. They didn't just call me Jacob. No, they called me Dad. And you know what? I believed it. They loved me like a father. And I loved them like they were my own flesh and blood. I felt like the luckiest man alive. But you know how life works. Just when you think everything is perfect, something shifts. Little disrespectful comments here and there. Nothing major. I brushed it off. I told myself, it's just a phase. They're growing up. But I was so wrong. I had no idea what was coming. You know, people say raising teenagers is tough. They get moody, they push boundaries, they think they know everything. I expected that. What I didn't expect was how quickly everything I'd built would be thrown back in my face. Benjamin turned 17, and suddenly, he thought he was too grown for rules. He started coming home late, ignoring curfews, brushing off my advice like it was nothing. Elle, 14, wasn't far behind. She copied everything her brother did, rolling her eyes, ignoring me, acting like nothing I said mattered. I'd tell them to clean up after themselves. They wouldn't. I'd remind them about schoolwork. They'd shrug and walk away. I'd try to talk to them, really talk to them. They'd barely listen. And when I tried to set boundaries, they pushed back. Hard. I wasn't asking for much, just basic respect. But to them, rules were oppression. Authority was control. Now here's where it gets worse. Every time the kids talked back, I'd look to Diana, expecting her to step in. But she never did. She'd just sit there, quiet. Maybe she'd pretend to be distracted with her phone. Or she'd sigh, like I was the one being unreasonable. At first, I made excuses for her. Maybe she was tired. Maybe she didn't want to start another argument. Maybe she was just trying to keep the peace. But over time, it became clear. This wasn't just her being passive. She was letting them treat me this way. And that should have been my first wake-up call. The night everything changed, I remember it clear as day. Benjamin had been staying out later and later. That night, he came home past midnight. No call, no text, just walked in like he owned the place. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't angry. I just asked him, "Where have you been?" I expected some guilt, maybe an apology. Instead, He just rolled his eyes and muttered, "Relax. I'm not a kid." That's when I told him, "You live under my roof. You follow my rules. If you can't respect that, we have a problem." He looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're not my real dad. Stop acting like you own me." I swear, for a second, I felt my whole body go cold. And then, as if that wasn't enough, sweet little L, nodded and said, "Yeah, you're just some guy our mom married." I turned to Diana, waiting for her to say something, to correct them, to tell them they were out of line. She didn't. She just stood there. No anger, no disappointment, nothing. That moment, that's the moment something inside me broke. You'd think that after everything I'd done for them, after all the years I spent raising them, there would be a limit to how much disrespect I'd have to take. But no, there wasn't. Because just a few days later, the same thing happened again. This time, it wasn't just Benjamin mouthing off or Elle backing him up. This time, Diana joined them. It started over something stupid. Elle had left a mess in the kitchen. Plates piled up in the sink, crumbs all over the counter, spilled juice on the floor. I told her calmly to clean up after herself. You know, basic responsibility. But instead of doing it, she just looked at me and said, "Why don't you do it? It's your house, isn't it?" That stung. But before I could even respond, Benjamin chimed in. "Why are you always trying to boss us around? You're not even our real dad." And then came Diana's voice, soft, casual, as if what she was about to say wasn't going to stick with me for the rest of my life. "They have a point, Jacob. Maybe ease up." She didn't even look up from her phone. Didn't even have the decency to meet my eyes. I can't explain what happened inside me in that moment. It wasn't just anger. It wasn't just hurt. It was clarity. That was it. That was the moment I knew I was done. That night, I sat alone in the dark, just thinking about all the years I had spent taking care of those kids, thinking about all the sacrifices I had made, thinking about how, despite everything, I was nothing to them. And if I was nothing to them, then maybe it was time I started acting like it. So I did something I should have done a long time ago. I stopped. I stopped giving. I stopped caring. I stopped trying. No more rides to school. If they wanted to get there, they could figure it out. No more allowances. I wasn't their bank. No more protection. If they got into trouble, they could deal with it themselves. No more stepping in. No more advice. No more help. No more fatherly concern. They didn't want me as a father. They could see what life was like without one. And I'll be honest with you, it hurt more than I can even put into words. But deep down, I knew it was the only way. You ever notice how some people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone? How they think they can treat you like garbage, and you'll just keep taking it? That was Benjamin, Elle, and Diana. When I stopped acting like their father, they thought it was a joke at first. They laughed. Benjamin and Elle acted like my decision didn't matter. Good. Now we don't have to deal with him bossing us around. Mom's got us. We don't need him. I heard one day, and for a while, they didn't feel the impact. Because Diana, she made sure to pick up my slack. She funded their little shopping trips, made sure their weekends were still filled with fast food outings and unnecessary spending. She kept them comfortable, kept them cocky, and kept feeding them the idea that they didn't need me. They laughed at me behind my back, smirked when I walked past, made sarcastic little comments like I wasn't even there. But I kept quiet, because I knew something they didn't. Diana, she wasn't made of money. And I was the one who had been holding this family together. So I waited, and then it happened. At first, it was just little things. The weekend shopping sprees, fewer bags started coming home. The fast food runs, less frequent. The new clothes? Suddenly, their closets weren't overflowing anymore. And then it got worse. School fees were due. Diana started getting nervous. Benjamin got into trouble at school. Normally, I'd step in, handle things, talk to the principal. Not this time. Elle's phone broke. Usually, I'd replace it without a second thought. Not this time. And worst of all, no more Uber rides. They actually had to do something they thought they'd never do. Take the bus. I remember the first morning Benjamin missed the ride because he thought someone would cover for him. When he realized no one was coming, he had to sprint 3 blocks just to catch the city bus. Elle complained to Diana about it, saying, "Why can't you just get us another ride?" And you know what Diana said? "Because I don't have the money for that right now." The moment I heard that, I smiled, because I knew the reality check had finally arrived. It took about a month before Diana cracked. One night, I came home from work and she was waiting for me in the kitchen. Arms crossed, face red, already ready for a fight. "You're being a damn child, Jacob. What kind of man punishes his own family just because his feelings are hurt? You're neglecting your responsibilities." I just stood there, staring at her. Because there it was, that word, responsibilities. Not love, not family, not respect. No, I was just a responsibility, a provider. So I asked her, plain and simple, "Why do you never defend me? Why do you always let them talk to me like that?" And that's when she slipped. She sneered and said, "Because I agree with them, Jacob. You were never really their father." I felt something inside me go ice cold. She kept going. "I told them not to let you control them. I raised them alone before you, and I can do it again." I should have been angry, maybe even heartbroken. But you know what I felt? Relief. Because finally, she said it out loud. Finally, I knew the truth. I was never their father. Never her partner. Just a walking paycheck. A convenience. Benjamin and Elle stood in the hallway watching. Arms crossed, smug little looks on their faces. This is it. This is who they really are. I nodded. I turned around and I walked away. Not because I was weak, but because I was done. I always believe that when people show you who they are, you should believe them. And now, I had no choice but to accept the truth. The kids had already started becoming more aggressive ever since I stopped funding their lives. It escalated in the days that followed. My personal belongings started going missing. My work files, neatly stacked on my desk, were suddenly gone one morning when I needed them. My car, parked safely in our driveway, was keyed overnight. Deep scratches running along the driver's side. At first, I didn't want to believe they were capable of something like this. But then one night, I came home to find my closet raided, my clothes shredded to pieces and thrown across the floor. That was when I checked the security cameras. And there they were, Benjamin and Elle, laughing as they tore through my things. For weeks, I played along. I let them think they had won. I remained quiet, distant, unaffected, even as they tried harder to provoke me. But behind the scenes, I was documenting everything. I recorded their threats, saved every hostile text message, took pictures of my destroyed belongings, and made sure I had irrefutable proof of the environment I'd been living in. I started quietly putting my exit plan into motion. I met with a lawyer, explained everything, provided all the evidence I had gathered. The threats, the destruction of my property, the hostile environment. The lawyer assured me I had a solid case for divorce, and given the circumstances, I could request a restraining order if necessary. The process wasn't immediate. It took time. Weeks of legal meetings, paperwork, and formal reports. I filed an official police report regarding the damage done to my belongings. And though the authorities weren't going to storm into the house over a few destroyed items, the documented history of threats helped strengthen my case. Then, one morning, after everything had been processed, I left an envelope on the kitchen counter before heading to work. Inside, Diana found the divorce papers. At first, I imagined she thought I was bluffing, but soon after, she was calling me. Her voice a mix of anger and desperation. She must have gotten to the next set of documents, because her second call was even more frantic. Attached to the divorce papers were copies of my police reports, documentation of threats, and evidence of property damage. My lawyer had advised me to include it, to preemptively protect myself from any false accusations she might try to throw my way. I didn't answer her calls. I had already moved out, taking only the things I cared about. The bank accounts we once shared, closed. Any money she thought she had access to, gone. Everything was in my name, and I made sure she had no legal claim over any of it. Now, she was on her own. When Diana's calls went unanswered, the messages started rolling in. At first, they were full of anger and blame. "You're such a coward, Jacob. You ran away the moment things got tough. You were never a real man. A real father doesn't abandon his family. I don't need you. I can take care of my kids just fine without you." It was almost laughable. This was the same woman who had encouraged those same kids to turn against me, to treat me like an outsider in my own home. And now she was pretending like I had abandoned them, when in reality, they had thrown me away first. I didn't bother replying. There was nothing left to say. Weeks passed, then months. The messages from Diana slowed down, probably because reality had finally set in. She was actually on her own now. No more financial security blanket. No more easy money. She had always talked a big game about being able to do it alone. But I knew the truth. She had gotten used to the life I provided. And without me, it wasn't so easy anymore. And then, out of nowhere, I got a different set of messages. This time, they were from the kids. The first message was simple. "Hey, can we talk?" I didn't reply. A few days later, another message came through. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but things aren't great right now." Still, I didn't reply. A few more days passed, and then Elle reached out. "Hey, Jacob, I just wanted to say that I hope you're doing okay." I stared at my screen. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't type anything. Over the next few weeks, the messages kept coming, and slowly the tone changed. At first, it was casual, a weak attempt to break the ice. But then, the regret started creeping in. "I just wanted to say sorry for everything. We should have treated you better. Things have been hard since you left. Mom, she's not handling things well." And finally, the one that almost made me laugh. "I miss you." I let the messages sit there, unread. I didn't respond. I didn't acknowledge them, because I was free. And if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, never let people take you for granted. Never beg for respect. Never waste your energy trying to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. And most importantly, when you realize you're being used, walk away. Because some people only realize your value once they've lost you. And by then, it's too damn late. Walking away from Diana and the kids was the hardest thing I've ever done. Not because I still wanted them in my life, but because for so long, I had convinced myself that I needed them. That being a good man meant enduring disrespect. That love meant sacrificing your dignity. But I was wrong. A man who values himself doesn't stick around where he's not appreciated. Now, I live for myself. I focus on my career, my goals, my happiness. I spend time with people who actually care about me. I've reconnected with old friends. I've traveled. And I've started new hobbies I never had time for before. I don't wake up every morning wondering what drama is waiting for me. I wake up free. And that, my friends, is how I reclaimed my life. Never let people treat you like an ATM. Never beg for respect. And most importantly, they only realize your worth once you're gone. Let me know what you think about this story in the comments. And while you're at it, like and share this video with someone who needs to hear this today.